What's up, everybody? Abe here. I'm going to hit a topic that I don't think I've hit since I started this channel several years ago. And I know that my videos are intermittent. I'm a busy dude, and I have tons of things that I would love to talk about. I just don't always have time to sort of rake my thoughts into a neat little pile and present them to you guys and have long-form discussion. So I just have a lot of stuff that I do. But I do want to hit this thing. And it's the reason that I don't really talk about music anymore. And not even to musicians, quote-unquote musicians. Because most people, they don't really want to talk about music. They just want to say, oh, I like this band, and Marvin Gaye was great, and oh yeah, you know, James Jamerson. And then once, like, I can do that for, I mean, I could go for hours and just name off musicians that were awesome, or great, or had some influence, and we could agree or disagree on them, or whatever. But then once you get past that, I want to really talk about what makes music, making music, all the, you know, theory and rudiments and reading and technique and absence of technique and the balance of the two, and shutting off all the things technique-wise you need to be proficient on your instrument. And when I start talking about stuff like that, even people that are quote-unquote professional musicians, they just glaze over. And maybe I'm not delivering it well. I'm not sure. But I know that I just can't really talk about music. People don't want to go as deep as I go. I'm not sure what that's about. I do have to say that I find most quote-unquote musicians that I'm around these days really try to be as fair as I can, just lazy. I mean, a lot of them just want to, you know, oh, well, I got, you know, 3 chords and the truth. And that, you know, if you can write a killer song with 3 chords and the truth, then, man, that's great. Good for you, dude. But that's not, I'm deeper than that. I need more musical substance. I need to hear some ability, some nuance. I don't want to just hear, you know, the same open chord, first position stuff. I want to hear some, dude, play me a sharp 9 chord. Stick something in there. A 13th, a 7th, whatever. Give me something more deep to listen to. And this is why people like graze over that. Oh, what? I don't know. What are you? Because, you know, when I go to gigs or somebody hires me to play guitar, and I do something and I play an altered chord, which some people, well, this is what happens. Dude, where do you get them jazz chords from, dude? I'm like, jazz chords? What are you talking about? These are altered chords in country music back before country music became 3-chord junk. There's altered chords in good rock music. You know, and altered chords are just the ones that sound interesting instead of just a root third and a fifth. So it's hard. That's why I don't talk about music with people that much anymore. I think I have maybe 4 or 5 friends and maybe a relative or 2 that I could actually sit down and say, you know, have a real conversation about music, or like, oh, well, you know, when you hear that, this is that pattern right there, and this is, you know, why those things work, and that's a really cool technique to use, and it's a good tool to have in the toolbox, you know. And I'm talking to drummers, and I say, yeah, dude, use paradiddles right there, and they're like, huh? Like, that's not, you know, that's not what the Rolling Stones do, bro. And that gets into that whole less is more thing that just, every time somebody says that, it just kind of raises the hair on the back of my neck. I was like, okay, so if less is always more, or usually more, it sounds like you're pushing yourself to a place where you don't need to achieve anymore. And maybe that's why your fucking music is boring. And I don't have anything against Tom Waits or any of that kind of singer, songwriter, Townes Van Zandt, whatever. It's good. Some of it is good stuff. But a lot of it, boring. And the stuff that I find interesting is usually done by musicians that are more technically proficient on their instruments. Even bands like, Vintage Trouble. Hell, that guitar player's great. He's got all the techniques. He's got the rock stuff. He plays good chords. The songwriting is good. That's good stuff. I mean, the drummer doesn't really play a lot of fancy stuff or anything like that, but he does what the songs need. And I do understand that there's a balance. So you can't just, if you want to be a busier drummer, you need to find musicians that are going to fit that sort of thing. But you can't be the drummer in Vintage Trouble and think that you're gonna go jam with Chick Corea and do it. I mean, you might be able to come up with something, but if you haven't worked on your chops and stuff, and you can't play in 5/4 or 7/8 or whatever, or 9/8, or play swing and bossa and all of that shit, you're gonna have a real hard time, because Chick's gonna be like, what? Give this guy the elbow. He can't play. He's a Ringo Starr. He's a timekeeper, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not putting Ringo Starr down, because he did do some few interesting things, but it's not always about the simplicity. Anyway, that's why I don't talk about music, because people just glaze over. They don't want to hear. It's like the instant gratification thing. They don't want to hear what it takes to become a proficient player. They're like, oh yeah, I just want to go to the shortest route. I don't really want to read. I've even heard Nikki Sixx say this, like recently, that he's getting bass lessons, but he still doesn't want to learn to read music. Like, well, I don't need that. I mean, I guess if you're Nikki Sixx, and you've gone through your career and written songs and you've made millions of dollars, I just don't see how you become a professional musician and you can't read a note. And it doesn't take much. If you can read a fucking book, I mean, they teach you this stuff when you're 5. Why is it so hard for somebody to learn to read 5 lines and 4 spaces when you're 20 or 25 or 30 or 40? I don't know. I guess I'm irritated. Maybe that's what it is. I'm just irritated because I put in all this hard work forever. Since I could pick up an instrument, I put in all the hard work. I learned to read. I got the chops. I learned all my rudiments. I still work on like hybrid stuff that dudes my age have no idea even exist. And I'm like, you guys don't look at, I mean, y'all don't ever go to like the Vic Firth website and look at some of this stuff? I'm always checking out guitar videos. I'm always trying to find new stuff. And maybe that's why people don't want to talk to me. Because I'm a curious little monkey. I want to see, like, watch Premier Guitar and Rig Rundown and like, how do these guys get that tone and how does that do? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I know all, I've seen out of that, whatever. Guitar straight to the amp, crank it up, gotcha. Cool. But sometimes I learn stuff. When I watch like Drumeo or Mike's drum lessons or whatever, a lot of the stuff I see and I'm like, okay, I know that. But then somewhere in a video I'll find something like, oh, what did you do right there? Now, how did you put that together? And sometimes I get completely blown away by people who are super creative. They have all the chops. People like Jojo Mayer or whatever, or Steve Vai, or those kind of people that they have all the technical ability, but their thing is making music. And it comes out to be interesting stuff instead of just a little tiny little melody, which is great. If you can write a simple melody, that's awesome. But coming up with things that are interesting. I don't find singer-songwriter stuff interesting. To me, it's poetry with some chords in the background. It's like the beat poet stuff where you had, a guy with an upright bass and somebody tapping on bongos and a dude doing word jazz. I don't really find, the beat poet stuff was probably more interesting to me than the singer-songwriter thing. Anyway, that's just something that was kind of tickling me today. Is I was trying to figure out like why I don't really talk about, because I love to talk about music, but very few people I can do it with, because they just, I started saying something and I got excited and I was talking about big band jazz and Gene Krupa and all this stuff, because I studied jazz history and I still am into it and I know all this stuff and names. And my wife just like literally looked at me and like, dude, I have no idea of what anything you just said. And we've been married for almost 20 years. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. I don't know if there's any musicians out there that find this. Tell me what you think. Go down there, like, share, subscribe, and I'll probably go back to bitching about social issues. Till then, see you later.